for power plants, it's just you're using 300 degrees temperatures or higher, 300 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, to produce steam and generate electricity. It's a different method of using geothermal. It's large scale as opposed to small scale, higher temperatures as opposed to lower temperatures. Gloria, would you like to ask any questions?
Well, I was kind of hoping to hear more from you. I assume you have a lot more to present.
There's one more section. We kind of went through it real fast. I intended the presentation to be fairly short and allow people plenty of time to ask questions. There's 4 portions of it. We covered a lot of it already. There's the last section that the advantages of record high corporate profits. That's the last section. If you guys don't have any more questions about what I presented already, I'll cover that fairly quickly. Any more questions about the earlier part? We can always go back if you guys have something to ask.
I'll probably have lots of questions, but I don't know if you want them now.
Yes, by all means, by all means.
Well, I remember that you were looking at a town in New Hampshire to build a large geothermal installation. I'm wondering if that ever happened.
Yes, there are 5 locations we have looked at for developing geothermal power. 2 of them are in New Hampshire. One of them involves a developer who has a large section of land that he's looking for. He's a manufacturing developer, and he's looking for companies to move in to their manufacturing facility. He's finding that rather difficult because the price of electricity is skyrocketing and most manufacturing is looking at moving overseas. So when I presented the idea of geothermal power, they're very much in favor of that, seeing that as a solution to their dilemma. How do you attract industry to an area where electricity is prohibitive, the cost of electricity, I should say. So there are places in New Hampshire. There's another location a little bit further north, which involves what many people aren't aware of is an extinct volcano in New Hampshire.
Is what?
An extinct volcano. It's basically, there hasn't been any activity on it for millions of years. And it's ideal in many ways because it represents a vertical riser where we can more readily transfer heat from the core to the power plant without disrupting the geology.
What part is that? What part of New Hampshire is it?
It's in the northern part of New Hampshire. A lot of people travel up there for recreational purposes. There's a lot of large logging operation that's presently the primary industry in that area right now. And they too are experiencing the cost of record high electric prices that they have to somehow cope with. So they are also interested in the potential of low-cost energy, seeing it as a way of building their companies and industry in that area as well.
I think that, I've been a fan of this whole idea of this large geothermal plant for a long time, but when a lot of other people think, oh, that's kind of grandiose, and how could you ever do that, and what would it do to the earth, and all this stuff. And it's hard for me to refute that, and I don't know enough about it to.
Well, interesting, along those lines, one of the most challenging parts of advanced geothermal isn't the building of the facility itself, it's the financing.
Yeah.
And that's, as you say, a lot of people say, well, it can't be done, it's too grandiose an idea. How can you ever raise that much capital? And that actually is a very good concern that a lot of people have. How can you do that when most capital comes from venture capital? Traditionally, all large projects are funded by venture capital. And for many of those venture capital people in the energy industry, they have their capital as a result of fossil fuels. And to invest in an alternative represents a conflict of interest. So it's a bit of a challenge of getting funding through those resources, but there is new options that have come available with the internet. And that option is crowdfunding. for the first time ever, capital has been raised on a level comparable to what only venture capital previously would be able to provide, and that was President Obama demonstrated crowdfunding in his campaign, what is referred to often as the 99% could do if they really liked something. They contribute a substantial amount of money to the ideas that he was promoting, money that previously would only have been able to come from large corporations or wealthy, sponsors. And if that's of interest, any of this is of interest to you, there is a company out there that represents the potential of a democratically run company. And if large enough percentage of what we refer to as the 99%, large enough portion of that were ever to become organized, they could easily fund a geothermal power plant and create a vast number of quality jobs. And that's kind of what we're trying to build momentum for, is people to take an interest that even a small contribution, the membership was fairly minimal, they could create a large, almost profound economic and social change.
Are you talking about like a co-op?
That's one definition of a democratically run company, a co-op. Some people look at it as a unions or another vision of that. Really what we're saying is that to sustain long-term sales growth, you really have to have a quality product. And the most profitable quality products out there are low-cost energy. And our whole economy runs on energy, whether we like it or not. And that may change over time, but for right now, those are the industries where most of the resources are accumulating. A lot of companies have large, vast profits in their portfolio right now, but they're reluctant to invest it because they don't see a good investment opportunity that's going to have a great return for them. So they're holding it, waiting for that opportunity.